Three players to win Man City the league title. Let's go. Welcome back to the City Ramble, leading the conversation in the world of Manchester City. So if you're not subscribed yet, what are you doing? Get down in the description, hit the subscribe button, and also make sure to check out the City Ramble Discord as well. It's a big Man City group chat, basically talking all things City and plenty of things non-Man City. But today, in today's video, I have put together a mini wish list of three players who I think, if City were to sign them, they would win the league title, basically. If City was to sign them, they would then have the best squad in the Premier League, and they would go on and they would have the most balanced team, the best players, maybe not the best players in terms of, there's going to be a Verts, there's going to be a Saka, whatever. But I think City would have the squad to go on and win the league title. Now, I have to say, we're not playing sort of FIFA career mode here, or EAFC career mode for the new kids on the block. We're talking realistic signings, and you'll notice a theme as we go through to sort of recognise maybe there is, in fact I'm going to say it, there's a bit of a homegrown feel, because you look at City's squad right now, there is certainly a need for homegrown players, or at least there might be, depending on certain outgoings. Kicking it off, the most obvious one on this list, for me, a player who I feel like if City signed this summer, they could be in a position to win the league title anyway, regardless of any other incomings. It is, of course, Mr. Tino Livramento, a guy who has been linked to City for most of the summer. Obviously, I'm not going to lie, the right-back market isn't great, but with Tino Livramento, I feel like he's England's best up-and-coming right-back. That department, in terms of England's pretty stacked, to be fair. You've got Reece James, you've got Trent Alexander-Arnold as well. But with Tino Livramento, I feel like he's got the potential. I think he's only, 21? Turns 22 in November. We've done plenty of videos of him on this channel. So if you haven't watched them already, make sure to check it out. Sort of breaking down what Tino Livramento would actually give City and why, in my opinion anyway, I feel like he's one of them players you just pay the cash for. You accept it's going to be an overprice. English, homegrown, young, Premier League rival. You're going to be overpaying. But I feel like that's the sort of position where City... Well, there isn't that many other options, basically. And people might say, Dumfries, yeah, that had been great if ideally City could get that sort of deal done. Yeah, fine. But I feel like with the homegrown issue, that's not going to be one that is able to be done. So I think Tino Livramento, he, fingers crossed, barring a catastrophe, he gives you that position locked down for the next 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 years. In 10 years' time, he'll only be 31 years old. Maybe he doesn't do a decade at City. I'm not saying he will, but I just feel like he has got that sort of age profile. Possibly going to go on and be England's starting right back. Be interesting to see if Thomas Tuchel uses him in any of the qualifiers coming up in the new season. But I don't know. I feel like if you add Tino Livramento to City squad as it is right now, that'd step it up a bit, because you would then have a recognised right back able to play that position. I feel like he, has had criticisms over his attacking output. Kyle Walker wasn't an attacking right back. He isn't a wing back, so to speak. And even still, maybe you could have Matheus Nunes as the backup option there. He's a lot more attack minded. So look, I feel like Tino Livramento for me would be, if I can add any signing for City now, between now and the end of the summer transfer window, give me Tino. Obviously, Newcastle doing business as well. They're spending big on attacking talents. Maybe to try and keep hold of Alexander Isak, they have to let go of another one of their sort of better players. I can just see City trying it. Whether or not it comes off, I don't know. But I can just see City trying it. The next one, if you watched the video that we did on this channel about the sort of the free fixes City need to make between now and the summer sort of transfer window or the season starting, make sure to do so. Also, again, another shout out, if you've not subscribed yet, trying to get to 5k subscriptions before the start of the Premier League season. So if you can help us out with that, that'll be a big help. But I spoke about on that video in terms of fixes City need to make, sorting out the goalkeeper department, because right now you've got Edison. His contract is expiring 2026 summer. You've got Ortega. His contract is expiring 2026 summer. You've got Marcus Bettinelli, who's obviously just joined as the Scott Carson replacement, I guess. Guess when his contract is expiring? Yes, the summer of 2026. So I just feel like having three goalkeepers, all of their contracts expiring at the end of next season, isn't a good look. it's the position where you've got to be locked in. You've got to be dialed in up here. You can't really be having any sort of external distractions, maybe. And I feel like for both of those players, if for whatever, hypothetically speaking, if Ortega and Edison, because they're the main two that we have to speak about, obviously, Bettinelli might be on a 1-year rolling contract, whatever. But even still, you could find a third choice goalkeeper pretty easily. With Ortega and with Edison, say you get to January and both of them, haven't signed new deals or whatnot, they're going to be looking at new clubs. They're going to have people in their ears saying, yeah, do you fancy coming joining us? We can give you this massive signing on bonus. And the head's going to turn. But that's a point where City will either be hoping to push for a title race. They'll be hoping to, absolutely get qualification for the Champions League. They'll be pushing in the Champions League itself. They'll be pushing in the FA Cup, looking to get silverware. So for me, it's a position where I just feel like there's so many question marks over it. That being said, the situation, the theory that we've spoken about actually a little bit before, earlier in the summer as well, that I could see happening still. I know it's a bit of a Newcastle-inspired video, this, but Newcastle have reportedly been in touch, supposedly had a bid accepted, whatever. But it is James Trafford. Now, I can see why some people will be a bit maybe underwhelmed with that suggestion. He has played Premier League football in the past, but most of his sort of better stuff has come in the Championship, whatever. For me, that's a position where I feel like it's easier to make the step up. If you're talking, City going out, hypothetically, signing a winger from the Championship and expecting them to come in and be starting quality straight away, no. And I'm not saying that James Trafford, should he come in, would be starting quality, but it makes sense, at least on paper, for James Trafford to be signed as the backup, but with a view to him becoming City's number one after Edison leaves. And maybe Edison starts the season as the number one. But if Edison drops a clanger, if he has a howler, then James Trafford comes in. Maybe you play James Trafford a little bit more in the Champions League as well to get him up to speed. In those lesser matches against Sparta Prague or Slovan Bratislava, as was the case last season. That, to me, obviously, I think the fee sort of being reported is around 30 million quid. It's not going to break the bank, so to speak. It is obviously helping that homegrown quota as well. That is the second most likely transfer I can see happening this summer if City go out and get Tino Livramento. They're the two that I've sort of earmarked as semi-realistic. Now, the last one, I feel like it could be a little bit controversial. Just going off the vibe online, I've seen a massive split surrounding this player. And again, I want to sort of stress, this is realistic options. If it was up to me, go and get Valverde from Real Madrid. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's never going to happen. But I think if you're going to be greedy, which is the point of this video, basically. I said we're not playing career mode, but hey, I'm adding another 3 signings, having made 4 before the Club World Cup. But I think if you can be greedy, I think City maybe look at the midfield department. And dare I say, they go back for Morgan Gibbs-White? Look, I rate him. I seriously do rate him. I was a little bit gutted, actually, when the news broke that the move wasn't going to happen. And I see people saying, yeah, well, we got Shirky for 30 million quid. Yeah, great. However, I tell you what, why not play both of them together? Because Bernardo Silva's sticking around. I don't mind that. By the time next season comes around, as in sort of the end of next season, he's out of contract. Maybe he signs 1-year extension. I don't know. But you're going to be needing to add a starting level quality player into the mix. You've got Kovacic there. You've got Gundogan there. They're not getting past, in my opinion, 2 years at most. I expect one of them to leave this summer anyway. So at some point over the next 12 to 24 months, City are probably going to have to add a bit of a box-to-box midfielder, a midfielder who's got a bit of legs, a midfielder that doesn't mind doing some of the off-the-ball dirty stuff, dirty work, not the dirty stuff, but also at the same time can have an eye for goal. And I think people sort of discredit Morgan Gibbs-White and say, he only likes playing on the counter-attack, blah, blah, blah. I just don't necessarily think that's the case. Even still, you've got players like Doku, like Haaland, like Savinho, who would almost thrive with those sort of in-behind passes, which we have started seeing more already with Tajani Reinders in the team. I just feel like there's there's scope for another all-action midfielder because Kovacic isn't getting any younger, Gundogan isn't getting any younger. Bernardo Silva, I'm happy to see him stay. I think you talk about leadership, you talk about mentality. I think he's got it. The way he was speaking last year, it feels like he's got a point to prove. And, how many times has he sort of stood on his head and delivered for City? Being said, at some point there is going to have to be a player added. If none of them leave this summer, which I'm almost certain at least one of Gundogan and Kovacic are going to go anyway, maybe even both. I've seen reports knocking about this week that the Ryan Shirky deal didn't spell an end to Morgan Gibbs-White potentially signing for City, which I thought was interesting. They're sort of leaving the door open. Obviously, Spurs looked like they were going to bag him last week, and then it all went a bit wild. Maybe that makes it easier for City because Nottingham Forest have been sort of done dirty by Spurs. Maybe they'll sell to City. I don't know. There's so many sort of things that would need to fall into place for this sort of transfer to happen in terms of players leaving, money becoming available. Like I said, it's a wild card. This isn't one that I'm necessarily expecting to see. If he stays at Nottingham Forest this summer, maybe it's all eyes on next summer when maybe Bernardo leaves, Gundogan's gone, Kovacic is looking like he's going to leave as well. I would be surprised if he stays at Forest this summer, though. It feels like an exit could be close. Although I did see Morgan Gibbs-White was back in Forest training, so who knows? Who knows? But they're the three realistic options. I feel like I would look to get into City's squad to give them a really good chance of winning the league. And I think, hypothetically speaking, theoretically, if you could get a situation where you had all those three players in the squad, yeah, I'd start getting giddy about a potential title challenge. Right now, I think the right-back department is a bit of an issue for City. I think the centre-back department's an issue, but mainly because you need to sort of trim it a little bit. You don't necessarily need to go adding players in there yet. I think that's one for next summer. So maybe we'll do a short list of players that City could look to get next summer. But yeah, I think those three players, if you could add them in, it would be nice. But again, maybe it's a touch unrealistic despite putting forward realistic names. Let me know who you would want to add to City's squad if you had the opportunity as well. That's in the comment section. Like I said before, subscribe, hit the like button, join the Discord, and until next time, it's been a pleasure, and we will see you later.